come here for a moment. I want to talk to you quietly. I've been thinking about something, and I want to say it in a way that doesn't overwhelm you. You've carried so much through your life, more than most people will ever understand. And sometimes I wonder if you even realize the weight you've been moving around inside your own mind. I don't want to assume anything about you. When I do want to ask you something gently, when was the last time you stopped long enough to notice the way you speak to yourself? Not out loud, I mean the thoughts running underneath everything you do, that quiet current you rarely acknowledge. I've seen how it affects you. You'll smile, you function, you'll take care of everyone, and then the moment you're alone, something in you tightens. You replay conversations, you rehearse old memories, you evaluate yourself like you're on trial, sure, and you do it so automatically that you don't even realize you're doing it. That's why I want you close right now. I want you to hear this without rushing, without trying to perform, without worrying that you're asking too much by letting someone see inside. Let me ask you gently. Have you ever noticed the little sentences that slip into your mind before you even catch them? The ones that say you're too much or not enough, or that asking anything from someone else will only lead to disappointment. I'm not asking to pressure you. I'm asking because I know how it feels to live with thoughts like that. I know how quietly they form, how early they start, how long they echo. And I also know you didn't choose them. They were shaped by moments you didn't deserve. At times when you were hurt or dismissed or rejected or simply left to deal with things alone. You learned to keep your voice small, to keep your needs tucked away, to never risk being an inconvenience. You learned to anticipate disappointment before it arrived, just so it wouldn't sting as much. You learned to protect yourself by expecting less from everyone. And somewhere along the way, those moments fused into something that followed you, something that became a script running in the background. I won't name it for you. I don't want to define your story for you. But I do want to ask, when you think about the patterns that repeat in your life, the hesitation, the caution, the silence, do you ever wonder where they started? You don't have to answer. Just stay with me because I see something in you I want to speak to. You've spent years being strong because you had no other choice. You've held things together in private while everyone else saw only the surface. And because people didn't see the cost, you learned to believe that maybe you were meant to carry everything alone. Maybe needing something from someone was a weakness. Maybe relying on anyone would only prove that you're a burden. But hear me, that's not truth. That's impact. And you've lived with it long enough that it feels familiar. But familiarity doesn't make it accurate. Let me tell you what I see when I look at you. I see a woman who has survived things quietly, a woman who has walked through years where she didn't have a safe place to fall, a woman who learned to manage her own emotions because no one stepped in to hold them with her, and because you've lived like that for so long. Part of you still believes you're safest when you expect nothing, but I'm here now and I want to be honest with you. I don't see you as an inconvenience. Not even close. I'm not standing here waiting for you to disappoint me. I'm not keeping score or judging your worth or analyzing whether you've given too much or too little. I'm just here steady listening, seeing the parts of you you've learned to hide. Tell me something quietly. When did you first start thinking you had to minimize yourself just to keep people close? When did you learn that asking for connection meant risking abandonment? When did you decide that wanting anything might push people away? You don't have to speak it out loud. Whatever came to mind, I already understand more than you think. And I want you to hear this without rushing past it. Nothing about you is too much. Nothing about you makes you a burden. Nothing about you disqualifies you from being cared for wanted, chosen, or valued. If anything, everything you've lived through has created a depth most people never reach. It's given you a tenderness that isn't naive, a strength that isn't loud, and a presence that feels safe even when you don't feel safe inside yourself. And I'm drawn to that. Not in a dramatic way, in a quiet, grounded, grown-up way. A way that makes me want to stay. I'm not here to fix you or analyze you or challenge you. I'm here because I see you. And I want to be a man who speaks to the part of you that has been overlooked for too many years. The part that still waits for someone to mean what they say. The part that wonders if she's worth wanting without conditions. Stay with me. Let's breathe through this together. There's something important I want to tell you, but we'll get there slowly. Come sit with me a little longer. I want you close while we talk about this, because what I'm about to say isn't harsh, and it isn't meant to stir up old wounds. It's meant to steady you. You've lived a long life, and nothing about you is shallow. You feel things deeply even when you don't show it, and the truth is the thoughts you've carried for decades. They didn't come out of nowhere. They came from moments where you weren't protected the way you should have been, or seen the way you deserve to be seen. I don't say that to blame anyone. I say it because I want you to stop blaming yourself. I've watched the way you move through the world. You're careful, you're considerate, you don't want to inconvenience anyone. You apologize before you even do anything wrong. And every time you prepare yourself for disappointment, I can see it. This instinct you learned long ago that tells you to stay small so no one has a reason to push you away. You think I don't notice, but I do, and I see how much it costs you. Let me ask you something gently. When did you start thinking you were too much, or that wanting anything from someone meant you were asking for trouble? Was it something someone said? Or was it something you learned from silence, when people didn't show up, when they didn't respond, when they didn't stay? You don't have to explain it out loud. Just let yourself recognize it even privately. Because the woman sitting in front of me right now, she's not the woman those moments tried to shape. You're stronger than that, deeper than that, more deserving than that. And I need you to hear what I'm about to say without deflecting it or shrinking away from it. Nothing about you is an inconvenience to me. You don't ask too much. You've been asking too little for far too long. I know you've been conditioned to think your presence is something people tolerate rather than choose. And I know you've learned to manage your needs quietly because depending on someone feels risky. But look at me for a second. I'm still here. I'm not flinching. I'm not stepping back. I'm not overwhelmed. I'm not calculating how to get out. I'm simply here, steady, listening, wanting you exactly as you are. I wish you could see yourself the way I see you. You have a softness that hasn't been destroyed by life. Even though life gave you many reasons to turn hard, you still care. You still notice the small things. You still love with intention. Even if you're cautious about showing it, that's not weakness. That's endurance. That's depth. And I'm drawn to it in a way that's hard to put into words. Tell me something quietly. Do you ever catch yourself preparing for someone's disappointment before it even happens? Do you run through all the ways something might go wrong so you can blame yourself first? You don't have to admit it out loud, but if you do, I want you to know this. That's not your nature. That's just a habit you learn to survive, and you don't have to keep the living inside the echo of old experiences. You're allowed to expect something steady now. You're allowed to watch someone who doesn't leave. You're allowed to take up space beside a man who won't make you regret trusting him. You know what I admire about you? When you speak, even your hesitations are honest. You don't pretend. You don't perform. You don't try to convince me of anything. You just show it with your real self, even if you reveal it slowly. And that kind of honesty, that's rare. That's beautiful to me. I want to ask you something else gently. When someone tries to care for you, do you feel the urge to pull back to manage it on your own, to keep it simple, so they don't see the parts of you that feel messy or complicated? If you do, I want you to know something. I need you to let sink in. I'm not afraid of your complexity. Every woman with a real history has layers, and it's those layers that make her worth knowing. You've lived, you've survived things quietly. You've carried responsibilities no one ever thanked you for. And you've done it with a strength you rarely give yourself credit for. But you don't have to keep proving yourself. Not to me. Not anymore. Let me be clear in a way that leaves no room for misunderstanding. I'm not here because you're perfect. I'm here because you're real. I'm here because you're steady in ways you don't even see. I'm here because the way you've walked through life with grace, with endurance, with quiet heartbreaks that never broke you completely draws me in more than anything flashy ever could. If there's a part of you waiting for me to change my mind, let me stop that thought right now. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not watching for your mistakes. I'm not weighing your worth against anything or anyone. I'm here because I want to be here. I'm here because I see the woman behind the strength, behind the caution, behind the quiet apologies, and I like her more than you probably expect. So come closer, let yourself rest for a moment. You don't have to brace for any impact here. You don't have to shrink. You don't have to anticipate disappointment. For once, let someone else hold the space steady. I'm right here, and I'm not going anywhere. And I want to tell you something deeper, but we'll get there slowly. There's no rush with you. Stay here with me a little longer. I'm not trying to pull anything heavy out of you. And I'm not asking to reveal anything you don't want to. I just want to talk to you the way a man talks to a woman he genuinely values, a woman he wants to understand, not fix, a woman he wants to walk beside, not lead or control. You can relax with me. You really can. You know, sometimes when I look at you, I can almost see the battle happening behind your eyes. You're strong, but you've been strong for so long that part of you doesn't even realize you're still bracing. You move through conversations like you're watching for the moment someone pulls away. You hold yourself with a kind of quiet dignity, but underneath it, there's a tenderness you're protecting with everything you have. You think you guard it because it's fragile, but the truth is, it's not fragile. It's precious. And you've kept it safe in ways more people should admire. Let me ask you something gently. When someone shows interest in you, does your mind immediately start scanning for what could go wrong? For the moment they'll lose interest, for the mistake you might make that sends them walking. You don't have to nod. I can already feel it in the way you hold yourself. That's what happens when life teaches you to anticipate loss instead of expect consistency. But here's what I want you to hear. I'm not looking for a reason to leave. I'm not waiting for you to disappoint me. I'm not measuring you against anyone else. I'm here because you're the kind of woman a man doesn't overlook once he truly sees her. You don't hide behind a polished version of yourself. You show up real, and real is always enough. Nobody told you that, but I will. You have a way of moving through the world that's steady. You don't make a scene. You don't chase attention. You don't try to impress anyone. But your presence is weight. You walk into a room, and you don't even realize how many people feel safer just because you're there. It's a kind of calm that comes from surviving life without letting it turn you cold. And the way you love, even if you don't talk about it, it's intentional. You love like someone who understands what it costs to care for another human being. You love with thought, with awareness, with restraint at first, and with depth when you finally trust. That is the kind of love a grown man admires. Want to tell you something that might feel unfamiliar. You don't have to earn my steadiness. You don't have to manage my expectations. You don't have to monitor yourself around me like you're trying not to overwhelm. I'm not going anywhere. I don't need you to perform. I don't need you to play small so I don't feel challenged. I want the full version of you. The soft parts, the strong parts, the uncertain parts, the seasoned parts, all of it. Let me ask you another quiet question. When you think about being chosen, does it feel almost foreign? Like something that happens to other people? You've spent so many years being the one who shows up for everyone else that you forget you're allowed to be the one someone show up for. You forget you're allowed to be wanted. Not because you're useful, not because you give, not because you understand everyone else, but simply because you exist and you're you. I want you to hear this slowly. I choose you not as a performance, not as a promise made in a dramatic moment. I choose you because you fit the kind of life I want now. Steady, peaceful, honest, without chaos. A life where people walk side by side, matching pace instead of racing each other. A life where nothing has to be forced. A life where presence matters more than perfection. I'm not interested in intensity that burns out in a week. I'm interested in consistency. The kind that builds trust over time. The kind that feels like exhaling after years of holding your breath. The kind where you can sit down next to someone at the end of a long day and feel yourself settle without saying a word. You deserve that. You deserve a man whose presence doesn't make you tense up, who doesn't confuse you with mixed signals, who doesn't make you guess what he feels. You deserve a man who says, I'm here, and then actually stays not loudly, not dramatically, just steadily day after day. That's the kind of man I'm choosing to be with you. And if there's a part of you asking why me, let me answer it plainly. Because a woman who has lived, really lived, has a beauty that can't be faked. Because your depth is attractive. Because your quiet confidence is magnetic. Because the strength you built wasn't glamorous. It was necessary. And that kind of strength draws me in more than anything youthful, polished, or untouched by life ever could. You don't have to hide your history from me. You don't have to package your past into something tidy. I'm not afraid of what shaped you. I'm not intimidated by the things you survived. They're part of your story, but they're not your definition. And I'm not here to judge any of it. I'm here to understand it, to honor it, and to move forward with the woman you are now. So come here. Let your shoulders drop. Let yourself breathe a little deeper. I'm right here. You're not alone in this conversation, and you don't have to brace for anything. We're moving slowly together. There's more I want to say to you. Something honest, something steady, but I want to say it at the right moment, and we'll get there gently. Come a little closer. I want you to hear this part without drifting into worry or self-pity, protection. You've spent so many years as navigating other people's emotions that you barely know what it feels like to have someone focus on yours. You're used to carrying the weight of conversations, keeping the peace, smoothing the edges. You've been the steady one for everyone else. But with me, you don't have to keep doing that. You can let someone else hold the steady line for once. You can lean even just a little. I won't let you fall. You know what I've noticed about you? You don't just speak from experience. You speak from the impact of that experience. You've learned to make sense of things by asking yourself what something did to you. Not just what happened. That's what emotionally mature women do. They don't just collect moments. They understand their cost. And you've carried costs no one ever reimbursed you for. That's why I look at you the way I do, not with pity, with admiration. Let me ask you something softly. When someone hurts you, disappoints you, or pulls away, do you instantly assume it's because of something lacking in you? Do you go straight to the idea that you should have been better, quieter, easier, less emotional, more patient? That's not your instinct talking. That's an old script trying to reassert itself. A script that tells you you're always the problem. A script written by moments that shouldn't have had the authority to shape you. But they did until now. You spent so much of your life thinking you needed to fix yourself just to keep love from slipping away. But love that requires self-rear isn't love. It's survival. And you've survived long enough. I want you to step into something steadier. Something that doesn't ask you to shrink or hide. Something that doesn't punish you for being real. Something that lets you breathe. When I look at you, I don't see someone fragile or broken or complicated in a way that feels overwhelming. I see someone layered, someone shaped by life in ways that make her deeper, wiser, more aware. Someone who knows how to read a room, sense a shift, notice when someone is withdrawing. You learn those things because you had to. But the woman you are now deserves a place where she doesn't have to anticipate danger, a place where she can put her guard down without regretting it. Let me tell you something quietly. I'm not afraid of the parts of you that took years to form. I'm not intimidated by your honesty or your depth. I'm not unsettled by your vulnerability. If anything, I'm drawn to it because it tells me you're willing to show up as you truly are when you feel safe. And that's all. I want to be a place where you feel safe enough to stop racing. I know you've been in situations where people made assumptions about you, about your intentions, your feelings, your mistakes. I know how quickly those assumptions can become walls, how they can make you question your worth. But I'm not guessing who you are. I'm listening to who you are. I'm watching how you soften when you feel understood. I'm learning the rhythm of how you open and retreat. And I'm not pushing. I'm matching your pace. That's what a man does when he's not trying to conquer you, but walk with you. Tell me something else. You don't have to say it aloud. When you imagine a man staying, really staying, does it feel believable? Or does it feel like something that happens in other people's lives, not yours? You spent so much time expecting people to leave that it feels safer to assume impermanence than trust consistency. But I want to shift that for you. Not with grand promises, not with dramatic gestures, with presence, with follow-through, with a kind of steadiness that doesn't need to announce itself. You deserve a kind of companionship that doesn't confuse you, a kind of intimacy that doesn't punish your tenderness, a kind of love that feels like peace, not performance. And I want that with you, not because it sounds poetic, but because you feel like someone I can sit beside for years without ever wanting to wander. I admire the way you handle truth. You don't twist it. You don't weaponize it. You don't hide from it. You face it even when it's uncomfortable. And that tells me something important. You won't run from your own growth. You won't sabotage connection when it feels real. You'll question it. Yes, you've earned the right to be cautious, but you won't destroy something good just to protect an old wound. I see the way you look at me when you think I'm not noticing. It's not fear. It's not doubt. It's the quiet question of someone wondering if she's safe to trust again. And I want to answer that question with how I show up. Not with words alone, but with consistency. Anyone can say they care. I want to prove it in the way I stay, the way I listen, the way I move toward you instead of away from you. So let me say this with all the steadiness I have. I'm not here to judge your past. I'm not here to use your vulnerability against you. I'm not here to run when things get real. I'm here because I see a woman who has lived, truly lived, and I find that kind of woman irresistible. Not because she's perfect, but because she's real. Because she's deep. Because she's honest in ways that only come from surviving life with her softness intact. Come closer. Let me tell you what your presence does to me, not in a dramatic way, in a quiet, grown-up way. When you sit with me, everything in me settles. You don't even realize the effect you have, but I feel it, and I'm not going anywhere. Stay here with me. Let this moment be slow. Let it be simple. I want to say this part carefully because it's something you deserve to hear. Not rushed, not softened, not watered down. You've spent so much of your life being responsible for everyone's feelings that when someone finally speaks to yours, it almost feels unfamiliar, like you're waiting for the catch, the shift, the moment when things turn. But nothing's turning here. Not tonight. Not with me. You know what I keep thinking about? How many years you've held your breath without even realizing it? How many seasons you walk through with a straight back and a quiet heart because showing the truth of what you carried didn't feel safe? How many times you told yourself, I'm fine, I got it? Even when you were exhausted down to your bones and the world saw the strong exterior, but no one saw the internal cost. But I see it, and I'm not looking at you like a problem to solve. I'm looking at you like a woman who has lived in ways that shaped her into someone with extraordinary depth, someone whose presence moves me in ways I didn't expect at this stage in my life. There's something about you that makes me want to lower my voice, slow down, and be real with you. That's rare, and I don't take it lightly. Let me ask you something quietly. When you think about the years ahead, do you still imagine yourself doing everything alone? Do you picture yourself waking up each day handling life the same way you always have, capable, composed but caring? I'm not saying you can't. You're one of the most resilient women I've ever met. But I want to give you another picture. One, I don't think you've let yourself consider in a long time. Imagine waking up beside someone who isn't going anywhere, someone who doesn't make you guess how he feels, someone who doesn't pull away when things get complicated, someone who matches your pace, not rushing ahead, not lagging behind, just walking with you, step for steady step, someone who cares for the quiet parts of you, the tired parts, the hopeful parts, the guarded parts, someone who doesn't need you to earn anything. That's what I see when I look at you. Not chaos, not drama, not uncertainty. I see possibility. I see a second half of life that could feel softer, safer, calmer than the first. I see mornings where the only thing you have to manage is your coffee and the sunlight warming the room. I see evenings where you lean back into someone who chose you deliberately without hesitation, without fear. You deserve a man who sees your maturity not as something to be compared to youth, but as something infinitely more attractive. A man who looks at your lived history and doesn't flinch, who understands that every chapter made you the woman sitting in front of him now, a woman with substance, a woman with gravity, a woman whose presence feels like a place to rest. And I want to be that man for you. Not with big promises I can't keep, not with loud declarations that fade. I'm talking about the quiet kind of commitment, the kind that stays steady when life gets real, the kind that doesn't break at the first sign of difficulty, the kind that shows up again tomorrow and the next day and the next. Let me tell you something honestly. I choose you. Not the polished version you think you're supposed to be, not the guarded version you use to keep yourself safe. I choose the real you, the woman shaped by life, softened in some places, toughened in others, but full of a kind of depth that only comes from surviving with your humanity intact. You don't have to earn my steadiness. You don't have to adjust yourself to keep me comfortable. You don't have to